Alright, continuing chapter 2. 224 works required before, during, after tamping. General activities work done before, during, and after. For, during, and after the elaborated with the following paragraphs, in addition to the above, the need for the special care with respect to the various machines also brought out. 2. Preparatory work introduction of the tamping machine with the plane track and turnouts before undertaking the maintenance tamping of the plane track and turnouts and or turnouts advanced playing with a full minute with the prerequisite with the necessary with the ensure the quality of work and increase the relativity of the tamping action. The detail of the year under should be taken with a detailed project report prepared, duly incorporating location-specific needs. If any, a field survey should be carried out with the determined existing profile of the track, including availability of the cleaning sole, ballast cushion, to decide with the extent of the lift and excess of the ballast requirement to take consensus of the hog and batter joints, in addition which may require the cropping over the reconditioning, etc. 3. Take consensus of the broken and damaged sleepers on the plane track as well within the turnouts. 4. Make an assessment of the extent with assess if the repairs required. B. Minimum of the clean ballast cushion of the 150 millimeters below the bottom of the sleeper, the real seats, the location recommended with the quality output. Preventive tamping with the tamping machines if the new line double engaging conservation, etc. Total of the cushion before the undertaking to tamp by the machine should be at least 250 millimeters for the one plane main line and 150 millimeters on the loop line. Citing availability of the adequate ballast should be ensured with the shoulder of the crib to allow for the required lift over the period proposed. The vertical profile is one of the relevant provisions of the Indian Railway's permanent railway manual, with all corrections slip. The Indian's railway schedule with the dimension which all corrections slip to maintain ballast profile with the Indian Railway permanent way manual after tamping work. Train damage should be improved. The pumping location should be attended with a rounded ballast. These locations should be replaced with clean angular ballast. Aforesaid objection planning with the execution with a deepening stream of the ballast required with the training out over the ballast cross repair work should be done well in advance. All broken, damaged sleepers should be replaced with, including those in the points of the crossing. Necessary attention, hog and batter joints, and given them required with the ending of the cropping and reconditioning, etc. Permanent reference of the pillars alignment with the discussed annexures 216 should be marked. In case of the tamping out with the turnout, sufficient length of the appropriate approach of the track, taking into account with a special track feature on either side, also be planned tamping in case of the turnout work leading on a loop line over the turnout and turn-in curve should also tamp along with the turnout pre-tampering works. The following preparatory work should be completed before undertaking tamping track. With another brown field survey should be carried out just before the deploying with the tamping machine. Update with the existing profile of the track. Rework with the proposed track profile with the PERT guidelines of detailed answer 216. Time gap between the field survey and actual tamping machine working should be minimum. In the case of the permanent reference piler shall be installed with the documented slew lift of the data can be used directly. Alternately, measuring run facility automatic computer machine of the tamping machine is available. There should be with the survey existing track profile and determining the proposed track profile during the block itself is just before the commencing of the tamping on operation. The beginning of the end of the curve of the transition curve should be written speciously on the sleeper addition with the various parameters mentioned below are shown in the sketch and should be written on every alternate every third sleeper for the use of the operator in feeding. The straight track slew FD and lift of the Y values design longitudinal profile, horizontal curves and slew, verse line composition, line of 4-point line system, verse line of the HHXHY8ZHW 3 value point line system, super elevation and lowering of the values, K correction, lifting Y values, design longitudinal profile for the vertical curve correction values for the vertical curve X correction. Alright, figure 240 shows lower and higher rail, verse line in the middle, lining data, slew is verse line correction, lifting data, lifting cant and direction of work. Bellows should be heaped with the tamping zone with the ensure the effect for the packing. However, the sleeper tab and top should be visible to the operator with the ballast not show with the lifting working with the lifting rollers. Necessary attention from the remaining hog and batter joints as required is given, and all cup joints also should be also attended. Deficient fittings with the fittings fastening should be made with good all fittings fastening like flash bolts, like heave with the collars, loose jaws, elastic rail clips, etc. should be properly tightened. Worn out of the rubber pads should be also replaced. Sleepers should be squared and uniformly spaced for the age, for the correctly with the de-stressing of the railing and adjusting with the creep with expansion gaps in the joints. The SEJs, etc. and if necessary should be carried out. Guardrails approach the guardrail bridges on ballast decks. Bridges should be removed temporarily. Hell, all obstruction rail lubricated with a single cord bonds with the cable, the pipes, of the axle contour, etc. with a matchmaking obstruct with the tampering tool should be removed temporarily in the face with the problem possible to remove the obstruction with the clearly marked on the nave known with the operators before start with the work, and wooden distant block with the platform, piece of the platform line, wooden block, log, fish, plates, etc. should be removed temporarily ahead of the tamping with the J-clips therein should be replaced with the proper lines and ERCs. In the electrified section, earthen structure of the crossbond should either be removed temporarily or properly adjusted with the unobstructed tamping. O. Level the cross-laying, open the check rail with the shall be removed temporarily ahead of the tamping machine. P. With the suitable speed restriction as per policy guidelines issued by the railway should be imposed. The existing joggled fish plates are removed before packing when the speed restriction shall be relaxed only after refixing joggled fish plates. Alright, Q for turn-ons following the work shall be done in addition complete layout, including the spacing of the sleepers as per relevant drawings shall be checked with the corrected if the broken bar of the worn nose of the crossing shall be either replaced with the reconditions necessary for the broken damaged sleeper. If any of the cross portion have been replaced with the higher points of the turnout and approaches should be determined. General lift should be decided. General lift the minimum of 10 millimeters must be given. Joint inspection of the senior service engineer and track machinist and senior service engineer. Permanent of the way should also be carried out to ensure the prerequisite preparatory to achieve the higher quality of the machine insured. Alright, R. Coordination with the department's operating department for the planning and arrangement of the sufficient line blocks to ensure the optimum safety use of the tamping machines. 2. The electrical department availability, OHE staff as required. S&T, the department available to single staffing and making communication arrangements as required. 4. Operations during term. The following points should be observed with the senior service engineer, junior engineer, and track machinist, as in senior service engineer, junior engineer, in a permanent way. Tamping machine should work with a design mode only except for the initial round of the tamping work side with the dynamic tracking service. The tracking service should be deployed with the work with behind with the tamping machine, the same block. With the tamping screw with the pressure should be adjusted with the coiling with the type of the sweep with the given them with the paragraph 2061. Gap between the top edge of the tamping blade with the bottom edge of the sweep with the clove with the position tamping tool should be adjusted depending on the type of the rail with the sweep with the gap of the different types of the sleeper should be given them with the paragraph 2062. Between the tamping screw the time should be kept to specify with the paragraph 2065 with the lower squeezing time should be chosen with the ballast in unconditional, partially consolidated conditions, higher squeezing time with the may be required with the track with the caked up belt. With the machine should have the full complement of the taking of the tools with the tamping tool should not be loose or worn out. Wear on the tool blade should not be more than specified in the paragraph 2066. Care should be taken to ensure the tamping tool will involve and serve the translate between the sleep of the ballast to avoid damage to the sleep of the number with the insertion tamping tool the first sleep of the various between with the type of the sleeper with the amount of the travel lift to give and with the paragraph 220 with one additional insert for the trouble to give in with for each sleeper. The LW in continuous welded rail track relevant to the provision LWR manual shall be adhered to for the ramp and ramp out provided in the paragraph 221. If the work is done during the night, sufficient light over the working site should be ensured. Correct feeding of the relevant values FD, Y, VM, V, F, H, X, K, and X shall be ensured with well working on the manual mode. During tamping, parameters of the tamp track shall be checked immediately after the tamping of the cross level alignment is necessary for the corrective action should be taken. For turnouts, ensure the sufficient length of the 50 meters of the approach of the track that taken into account with the special track features either side. Also tamp continuation for the track of the quick session without successful sufficient length of between adequate line block that should be playing with the tram. Adjacent turnouts together S&T with its connection with the stretch bar shall be removed with the war mobile moving the machine over the switch for the after for the tamping of the mainline portion leading with the following stretch bar is connected with the safe move of the machine over the switch. For tamping turnoffs, mainline portion stamped out first sequence of tamping given in figure in Annexure 217. Alright, in the case of the diamond with or without slip, the direction of the more traffic shall be tamped first in the fixture and shown in Annex 217, while tamping the machine portion of additional lifting arrangement provided with the machine Unimat 3 as lifts to the turn side rail, also therefore lifted the end of the sleep of the turnout slide should be adequately supported on wooden wedges using the non-infringing jacks under the rail. Still, these sleepers are tamped by the machine lays for the Unimat 4 as tamping the sleepers report under the third rail can be tamped. 8. In case of the turnouts leading in the loop line and turn and curve shall also be tamped in continuation and should be ensured with the S&T with the electrical staff associated during the work. Or 5. Post-tamping operation. Section engineer of the permanent way shall pay attention to the following. Check for the tightening and loosening of the fittings replaced with the broken fitting of the ballast should be addressed nearly with the Indian Railway maintenance way. Permanent way manual profile with the consolidation ballast between the sleepers should be done according with the tamping machine, not filed with the dynamic train status sweeping. Actual output of the work done shall be compared with the reference rate out with the advanced monitoring with the effect of the disc shall be done unusual the occurrence of an invariability report with the M&C with control of the engineering control along with the loss of the work time, if any. Final track parameters, single track as well with the mainline turnout should be recorded with the help of the recorders provided with the tamping machine operational equipment data recording processor in or separate room with the tracking of the measuring trial with the exception of the machine should after the tamping be able to achieve the track geometry generally category A standard, but no case lower than category B limited in Indian rail permanent way manual. Copy of the record should be kept within section engineer permanent way. If the record is not available to gauge the cost level that every 5 sleep of the tamp track should be recorded with addition of the Versaline super elevation curve that should also be recorded while working with the LLWR territory with the provision manual and with the long welded rail with the current sleep should be filed with a picture of the check rail with the remove during with the pre-tampering operation should be restored. Guardrails removed during the preparatory work should be restored. Distant blocks and platform lines, jogfish plates, OHE bonds, the single rod bonds, and cable pipes shall be put in place and fittings shall be tightened. 229. Dynamic track stabilizer. Generally, during the maintenance operation, tamping, lifting, slewing with the deep of the screening with the lateral resistance of the track gets reduced with the rebuild with the gradually with the passage of the train, the consolidation and consolidation can be either achieved with a faster, uniformly more effective means with the dynamic track stabilizer. General layout of the general layout of the dynamic track stabilizer given below. Shows a feeling rod, working driving cabinet leveling the cord of air vibration stabilization unit, the height transducer control vibration stabilization unit, 15.0 axle load front bogie driving cable feeler rod. Advantage of the dynamic track stabilizer condition. Dynamic track stabilizer is the major advantage of the eliminated with the different elements which call for the impact of the passing train. The lack of the geometry achieved with the tamping machine is retained for a longer duration. Consolidated structure of the ballast bed is built up with the lateral track resistance is increased with the result of the enhanced safety against the tracking buckling. Speed restriction can be relaxed earlier. 4. Brake system. The following types of the braking system provided with the machine. Direct brake is applied with only the machine during transit. Indirect brake with the receiver in the application of the machine with the coupling. Camp and coach wagon while running. Brake system is provided with a machine with a KE valve. The KE valve is available with all new tamping machine works with a single piping system. Emergency brake is applied with the machine during transit. All done with the coupled with the camp and coach wagon over the KE valve with the on position applied with the indirect brake system. Safety system of the brake is automatically applied, switching off with the hydropneumatic transmission. The DF gear placer machine that should not be normally used in service of braking system. Parking brake at hand operative mechanical brakes applied with the machine stabilized. 227 working with a dynamic track stabilizer. Mechanism for the dynamic track stabilizer. Have the dynamic consolidating with firmly with the beginning for the both rails. Hydraulic pressure for the fly. Wheels produce heavy oscillation. Some of the machine, the vertical oscillation, also have the direct laterally onto the track with together. The vertical load and transmitted with the track with the subsequent quality of the ballast bed with the dynamic effect with the directional oscillation cause the sleeper to be rubbed into the ballast bed and produce the flowing of the movement of the ballast from which gets denser into the filling of the voids. Compaction causes not only control the uniform settlement of the track, but enhance friction between the sleeper and the compact bed with thus increasing level of lateral track resistance. Oscillation frequency and adjusted for the impact with the dynamic force for the simultaneously apply the static force for the important aspect of the function of the dynamic track stabilized with the hydraulic cylinders attached between the main machine frame and for the consolidation units applied with the vertical static load with the both rails. Vertical load helps maintain the firm connection between the consolidation units of the track and the transmission line. Oscillation vertical static pressure is also adjustable. Leveling shift of the dynamic track stabilizer. Dynamic track stabilizer with the leveling shift that prevents longitude with the cross level of value with the tamping after tamping from due with the differential set in the various segments of the track during the operation of the dynamic track stabilizer. Transduce the longitudinal level of the cross level of the measuring recognize with the tendency towards formation of faults of this kind. Influence of the load control of the measuring signal V with the automatic governor counteracting the tendency of the propagation with a false speed of working with a dynamic track stabilizer, speed of the working control with the adjustable hydrostatic drive of the track geometry correct with several passes of the Tampic machine, low speed with the working at 0.5 kilometers per hour to 1 kilometer per hour. Slowly eject the first and second pass of the machine, and subsequent pass of the higher working speed is selected. Stabilization dynamic track stabilizer is possible to permit a speed up to 40 kilometers per hour in freshly deep screen track. The ballast is adequate. Dynamic track stabilizer has been behind the tapping machine has been used behind the tapping machine. 227, the modes of the working with a dynamic track simulators, machine with the capable of working with the two mode of the maximum settlement with the constant preload mode with the leveling system off with the initial mode with the working on the machine worker with the T with the higher consolidation maximum pro with the vertical load with the larger settlement. However, the settlement achieved within this mode with the working is usually irregular with the consolidation level of the ballast bed is high with the controlled settlement variable the preload mode and leveling on system on. This mode with the word with the dynamic track stabilizer machine with the capable of setting with the track and control manual with the maintaining the track geometry both with the longitude and cross level of the element value of the pre-selected around about 30% lifting during tamping and pressuring vertical load into the longitudinal long cylinders and control with the leveling system. Some machines measuring the control system has been installed but can remove the residual fault in the track geometry. 228 type of the dynamic track stabilizer with the 3 DTS machines with the Indian Railway, the DTS 629 Placer India, DTS VKL 404 IN, L India, DTS DSC DTS DSC PC 18 Medtex JSC Russia. Still features different dynamic track stabilizers, important dimensions. Give the machine give the AI an extra 218 signal feature for the technology of the different machines given below. Alright, G29, work with a dynamic track stabilizer. Jump on the machine with the maximum settlement and with the made with the renewal with the deep screen side with the maintenance side with the should be you with the control settlement with the track should be consoled with the dynamic track stabilizer following the tamping machine with the same block that ensure the fast and uniform consolidation. 2. Precaution work with a dynamic track stabilizer with the following extra precautions necessary for the operation of the machine. Complete with the tightening and fitting for the hole of the rails, sleeper essential for the adequate pre-depositing of the ballast to achieve the required profiles necessary. The vertical preload is selected with the leveling system and U with such a way to determine the maximum settlement is not achieved. 4. D with the selection frequently depending on the track condition, working the speed with the vertical preload with the judicious according with the knee with or without leveling system on condition frequency with the tie with the properly set with the machine appear within the smooth with the behave with the vibration transmit with the track not to the machine. E with the stabilization of the track and a bridge with ballast deck. There are changes of the reference for the apply with the frequency matches natural frequency of the bridge. Natural frequency of the bridge of the span over the 10 miles lies below 30 Hz. Therefore, a normally high frequency of 40 to 45 Hz should be selected with the working on bridges. Working on the major important bridges sufficient should be deposited. Observe the bridge spans, especially the bearings during stabilization operation. In useful condition, variation movements are noticed. Stabilization operation should immediately stop on the bridge, and speed restriction 20 kilometers should be imposed on the bridge until it's examined minimum level of a JE bridge. Have while working on the machine stretch adjacent walls, trench walls, retaining walls, platforms, no restriction on the work with the machine is normally necessary. However, the structures are defective. Each extra care is necessary approximately 20 meters of the either side to avoid likely damage to the structure. No stabilizing work on the train is permitted. When working behind tampering machine attending track at its maintenance site with the deep screen sighting, the dynamic track stabilizer would work with the following parameters. While stabilizing points on the cross, the dynamic train stabilizer should not be stopped at the crossing portion, ramp in and ramp out 1 in 1,000 should be given while starting or restarting work at any time. Alright, annexures.